aside, Gus Fring. Step away, Lalo Salamanca, because the true villain of Better Call Saul has finally been revealed to us. Very loud, obnoxiously loud, trucks on the highway. Or was it the writers for having the gall, the tenacious audacity, the absolute balls on the writers to dare withhold the conversation between Kim and Jim? Kimmy and Jimmy, no conversation, the ultimate mystery box. Literally, Saul Goodman, Gene Chakovakovich, or whatever the hell his name is, sitting inside a little box, a little mystery box. Deep breaths, deep breaths. You know what? Before we get to that, the amazing miracle of filmmaking, but so frustrating, but I am in awe of the absolute brilliance of it, but so angry, I just want to know what's happening on that phone call. But before we get to that, let's take a big deep breath, and by let's, I mean me. I will take a big deep breath, calm the absolute hell down, because clearly that frustrated me more than I thought, but just so good, so clever, just the ultimate mystery box, just Saul. Literally in a box of mystery on a call. He smashed the window. He was so mad. What happened on the call? I've never wanted to hear words out of a mouth, out of someone's black and white mouth before. What did Kim say? Was Kim even on the line? Before we get to that, let's get to kind of the big elephant in the room. And by elephant, I mean minivan that probably has meth in it, or did at some point have meth in it. You know, the whole Breaking Bad of it all. Hey guys, I'm Jax, and this is my spoiler review for Better Call Saul, Season 6, Episode 11, titled, bloody drum roll, Breaking Bad. That's right, guys, we finally got an episode of Better Call Saul called Breaking Bad, and I gotta be honest, I knew the episode was called Breaking Bad like a couple of days ago, maybe like almost immediately after last week. A mate sent it to me, he's like, hype, get the hype, everyone get your hype horns, boom, boom, let's get ready, it's happening. Everyone to their battle stations. It's happening. Walter and Jesse are going to be in this episode. And I wasn't sure if it had been confirmed or just like heavily rumored, but I had heard for a while, rumor mill kind of cycle situation, that they were going to be in it. That they were going to appear finally. They've had such restraint and they were finally going to appear in this final season. The episode was titled Breaking Bad. And so the whole week I'm just sitting there going, what I want to see is part 2 to Breaking Bad's episode, Better Call Saul. I want to be able to watch an episode of Breaking Bad called Better Call Saul, and then watch Better Call Saul's episode Breaking Bad as like a two-parter. It's like a double feature. Like you go and sit and watch a double parter of any show where it's, you know, and I just think that would be crazy. Like, what show have we ever seen? I mean, maybe there's 100, I just don't watch them, but that has ever had kind of two shows that have both had episodes in their own shows that are their own standalone episodes that work in their shows, but then if you grab those two shows, like episodes out of those shows, and put them together, they are like an isolated double-parter on their own. Just the idea of that blew my mind. Just the idea of that was overwhelmingly exciting, and just, I couldn't possibly anticipate something that would be as good as that. And I do have to say, part of me kind of feels like if you're going to go this route and half do it and call the episode Breaking Bad, oh, maybe I should have just spent some more time in the writer's room to make a full episode, all from Saul's perspective, because the idea of rewatching that episode from Breaking Bad, which I did this morning, and there was just so many scenes, like every single moment, I'm like, we can see a scene in between these two scenes of just Saul, and what Saul's thinking of. Saul could be at his home in his big mansion, and he could have a scene and be discussed, blah, blah. How did Saul find out that he was like a teacher, and blah, 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 all the things, and they did do that. Like, every scene we got was an in-between piece of the puzzle, but there was only one sequence that I really felt was like a true piece of the puzzle in the way that I wanted. Because yes, it is fun just to see characters from a thing that we love. It's like, remember the berries, remember berries, Breaking Bad, remember? Yeah, I do remember. the best show ever? Yeah, I remember that show. I remember those main characters from that show. And it is great to see them, and it's great to see all that kind of stuff. And, you know, just the iconography of it all, the big minivan of meth and all that kind of stuff. I just think like there's such a almost missed opportunity to kind of show us so many sequences and then show where he's coming from, and then to kind of enrich Breaking Bad, where then when you watch that episode of Breaking Bad, you're kind of like, there's like, you could almost like pause Breaking Bad and then go play Better Call Saul and then go back and forth. Like, I want to see some guy on the internet who just spends a whole weekend like cutting the two episodes up, and you get one big episode. That's kind of what I wanted to see where you kind of get that, but I could kind of just watch Breaking Bad's Better Call Saul episode and then on my phone get up like the 3 little scenes. And they're really only 2 scenes and watch them in between. And the first scene has Walter White and Jesse. It has our big 2 main characters. They're finally back. All the restraint that has been held, and they're finally here. And it kind of feels like they're just here to do their classic quips and be like, oh, we're quippy and we're sassy with each other, and there's a fun comedic kind of, balance between the 2 characters, and it's all there. It's all great. It's a bit of fun. But beyond them having a bit of quips in a bus, and then Saul's like, gonna get me home, and I'm also having some quips in a bus. I don't know, it didn't really give me anything that felt like it enriched the story. Like, there was nothing new there. It was familiar and old and nice, but it felt a little safe. It felt a little kind of like, I thought if you'd had so much restraint not including them for so long, they're finally in it. This is the 3rd last episode of the show. What have they been holding on to? What kind of juicy, meaty stuff that's going to, help Saul as a character for his final episodes, but also kind of make us reevaluate Breaking Bad in a different and interesting way? Oh, it's just quips on a bus. On a minibus, on a little van thingy. Okay, it's not bad, but I think my expectations were so high that I was a little underwhelmed by that scene. I loved the whole episode, really liked the episode. That goddamn phone booth scene, oh, a miracle of TV, but I'm so angry. But angry in a good way, where I'm like, I'm frustrated, but I know I'm meant to be. I'm meant to want to know what they said. We'll get to that in a second. But the scene that really worked for me was the scene where we find out, how did Saul Goodman figure out that Walter was a teacher? That's not really in his wheelhouse to figure those things out. Whose wheelhouse is that? Oh, that's right. Mike. Of course it was Mike. It's never occurred to me. I literally watched the episode this morning and I didn't piece that together going, oh, we're definitely going to get a scene with these 2 and it's going to work. But it's the piece of the puzzle I needed. It fits. It's just so perfect. We find out that he knew he has cancer from Mike. Mike figured out everything. He knows everything about all of them. But this moment in that scene that really works for me, that I just feel like reinforces and does everything that I wanted them to do with extra scenes for Breaking Bad, is they have Mike be classic Mike. And before they get involved in any way whatsoever, he is like, don't get involved. Walter, he's bad news. He's bad news. He's going to get you shot. He's going to get you arrested. He's going to get... Whatever happens with this guy, he's an amateur and he's just bad news. It's not going to be good. But then you can just see Saul as he's going on about the other clients he's doing, blah, blah, blah. After the Walter discussion, you can see in his mind, he's just like figuring it all out. And he just sees that zero, that dollar sign, that 0, just adding onto that figure in his mind of what he can get from Walter if the situation works out perfectly. And the idea that right from the start, Mike is just like, we shouldn't do this. Look at it. We've been doing a whole Better Call Saul thing, and we've finally gotten to a point. Lalo, the Salamancas, we've finally dealt with them all. We are in a good spot right now. We don't need this guy. He's going to be trouble. And of course we know he is going to be trouble, but it doesn't even just feel like a thing where they're like, oh, because, it's hindsight 2020, blah, blah, blah. It feels like something Mike would genuinely have said. He genuinely would have not liked Walter from the start. And we get little funny things like, oh, without a mustache, someone with that mustache is up to no good, blah, blah, blah. He's made bad life choices, ha, 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 his mustache. All the things. But it's just such a perfect prequel moment of tragedy, of heartbreak, because we know where it's going to end up, especially interjecting this scene with the Gene timeline, with how broken and colorless his life has become. It was a wondrous scene. It was everything I was hoping for. And maybe it's too much to hope for a whole episode of 50 moments like that, or 5 or 6 moments like that. So maybe it works to have a couple of scenes. You get a kind of a fan servicey moment with Walter and Jesse, and they're all like bickering and quipping, and it's like, remember the old times in the van thingy of meth? And it's like, yeah, I do. Oh, it's starting. I remember that episode where you go stranded in the desert. Remember Barry's fan service? It's a bit of fun. And then we get the kind of juicy, meaty moment with Mike, who is a Better Call Saul character now as much as a Breaking Bad character. So I don't know. That really, really worked. But I am still just right down, like right in the pit of my stomach. I just kind of feel like, I don't know. Am I the only one that kind of thought maybe just a full episode of all those kind of moments just to really kind of like, this feels like it's the last opportunity to use all of these characters in this big sandbox that is this crime world of Albuquerque, the Breaking Bad universe thingy. So I don't know, maybe I was just expecting too much. But I also think on a rewatch, I'm probably going to have a lot more fun with it once those expectations are just like non-existent. So the episode begins and we get a cold open where he's got the bag over his head and it's like, I knew what was happening. I've just rewatched the episode and I was trying to figure out what we're going to get, if we're going to get anything. And I knew immediately. And I just love the idea that we start here and revisiting those now iconic lines where he's like, oh, are you from Lalo? Lalo? Oh, no, it wasn't Lalo. And he's saying Lalo's name, all the things. And then he's like, it was Ignacio, it was Nacho, all the things. Now very iconic because they are now full-fledged characters on their own. They're not just lines in a show. They're now these huge, big characters that breathe life and are just so iconic on their own now. It's just such an amazing kind of bringing it up to speed to this moment. But then it cuts. We get a new, different Better Call Saul kind of opening titles. I do kind of wish, and I'm not trying to be negative, I had a lot of fun this episode, but I do kind of wish that opening titles had done a bit of a Better Call Saul / Breaking Bad, like somehow the smoke would drift in, or the boom, 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 doom, 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 would kind of play over a Better Call Saul title, or we'd see kind of clips of, I don't know. I was really expecting kind of some kind of blend, some kind of merging of two of the greatest opening titles of all time. They're so different and unique, but kind of combining them, we didn't really get that. It kind of stayed more true to what we'd been building up to from last week with the kind of blue VHS-y kind of distorting and kind of, I don't know, it works for Better Call Saul. I just think because this was called Breaking Bad, and it had those Breaking Bad moments, I was kind of hoping for some kind of meth smoke drifting in through it. Who cares? It doesn't matter. Little nitpick. But when you start the episode with that moment, I wasn't then going, okay, well, we're going to of course, we're going to, classic kind of, flashbacks to the Gene timeline, to this, to that. I can see what's happening. It didn't really feel like that. It was like, okay, no, we're going to get a full episode. We're going to get our double parter. It's going to be really nice and contained. But we didn't really get that. And I kind of feel like some of the Gene stuff for a little bit, I was just kind of like, come back to the Breaking Bad stuff, come back. But then once we got the Breaking Bad stuff, and I didn't love it, and I felt like it was a bit fan servicey and a bit just kind of like, oh, it wasn't really giving me everything I wanted. I suddenly realized I'm actually very, very invested in the Gene timeline because, I mean, obviously, we don't know what's going to happen. Like, it is now just such new terrain to the point of, like, I always thought, I don't know, just that phone call where he's like, vacuum cleaner guy, I'm bloody, I need to get out of here. Actually, I'm going to do it myself. Bam! Even rewatching it, like last night when I rewatched a bunch of those scenes, the way he does it, it feels so malicious, so like aggressive, so like, oh, I'm going to take the power back. I never really clicked that him taking the power back isn't like Walter White taking the power back with bang, bang, shooty, shooty, everyone dies. It's like, I'll just do a bunch of scams. That's what I do. And of course, that's what he does. So this episode, we get a bunch of scams again. We've got sweet little classic Slippin' Jimmy Saul Goodman stuff where he's got the little straw that's drinking all the alcohol for him, and he's getting it in the hot water bottle, and all those things, absolutely delightful. So much fun. I just love seeing so many scams right at the end. It feels like they're kind of, doing as much as they can, and it's really, really fun. It's fun to see him break bad, which is another reason for the episode title, I imagine. It may as well have been called Breaking Gene, because Gene is now breaking bad. He's going full Saul Goodman again, which I absolutely love. Slipping Jeffy's mum is once again fantastic. She doesn't really get as much play this episode. We get a couple of funny scenes with her on the computer and loving little cat videos, and her just kind of being overwhelmed by the idea of the internet is quaint and insane to my brain, but she's old, I suppose. But she's like, you click the box, you type the thing just appears. Yeah, the internet. When the hell is this show set again? I think I just keep forgetting it's not set like now. I'm like, I know she's old, but what are you talking about? Oh no, this is like kind of a time ago now. But then I'm like, but it's the Gene timeline, so she's almost caught it. It doesn't matter. She was hilarious. I do think that scene where she's like peering through the curtain and she's all like, what's this sus stuff going on at nighttime? I think like rewatching Nippy, the episode Nippy, I have this like horrible feeling that love she has for Gene, because she's like, oh, my Jeffy had a bad time in Albuquerque, but now, he's all good, especially because he's met you, Gene, the nicest man who's ever lived. That moment didn't really register me than the first watch, but now on a second watch, especially with that curtain looking me and sus, what's going on here, and the closed doors, in my garage, I think that she could end up being like the end of Gene somehow. And I think that final scam, that final kind of insidious twist of, malicious kind of play of the fake Nippy missing and, putting the snow on the ground so her thing gets stuck and all the things, I think that could really kind of bite him in the ass in the end. And I think that would be really, really interesting, because she absolutely doesn't deserve his nefarious plots and twists and turns, and she's just kind of mixed up in it all. But I would love her to kind of take charge, because she feels like a character that kind of wouldn't, and he's kind of not giving her the credit that she might deserve potentially. So I think that would be really interesting. I did start to wonder, and I was like, I get it. He's Breaking Gene, Breaking Bad, all the things Breaking Bad is. Better Call Saul had an episode called Breaking Bad because Breaking Bad had an episode called Better Call Saul. But it's all symmetry. It's poetry, whatever. Like George Lucas said, I understand that, but also kind of like, what is the connective tissue apart from just seeing those scenes and seeing this? What is going to be the connective tissue between these two completely separate moments? Like, I feel like there just needed to be something, and then finally we actually got something, and I am curious, like the Walter White and Jesse scene, I'm very curious how people respond to this episode. I was kind of surprised by the negative feedback from Nippy, so I wonder if Walter and Jesse's, everyone's going to be like, yay, fan service, I love it, I love this stuff. Or they're going to be like, oh, that's it? That's 6 years of build-up and that's all we got? I wonder if it's the same for the connective tissue, because in ways I'm like, oh, is it kind of, a bit thin, a bit of a thin string connecting them? Or is it really, really interesting as like a thematic idea? Because I think it really, really works. And the thematic kind of idea that I felt like was connected to them was just the idea of like morality on who you do scams to and who you do crimes against in a way. And that kind of morality of a criminal. And that kind of comes through with the cancer. And we find out from Mike that Saul knew about the cancer way before I think we thought he knew. In Breaking Bad, I think I'd probably have to rewatch it all to figure that out exactly. But it felt surprising to me that Mike already knew straight away that he had cancer. And then he's like connecting all the dots. And now in this timeline, we're doing a final scam. We're doing all these scams with all these rich guys, making money, having a big old Saul Goodman of a time. Saul Goodman, if you will. But then, not Slippin' Jeffy, but other slippin' guy whose name I don't know, slippin' guy with the dog, slippin' doggy guy, he's like, actually, I've got a moral center, and I will not do a slippin' Jeffy / slippin' Jimmy / slippin' doggy guy crime scam on a cancer patient. Like, he's gonna die. Like, my dad had cancer, and all these things start coming out, and I found that really, really interesting, the way that Gene just goes, what are you talking about? He's gonna be dead anyway, you won't even notice, and it's like, whoo! Oh, that is cold. That is malicious. That is brutal. And Gene kind of comes across like, often I feel like I forget, and I wonder if everyone else does, forgets how kind of awful Saul kind of can be as a character. You forget, like, I was rewatching the Better Call Saul episode. He's like straight off to like, we're going to shank Badger or what's going on? Shank Badger? Also, I would have loved to see Badger back. But neither here nor there. But he's like, straight to the stabbing. Always to send someone to Belize. Let's Belize them. To Belize. But in this, I don't know, just because he's the main character and he's so fun, doing the scams with the drinks going up, and he's so charming and charismatic in all these ways, it's sometimes easy to forget how much of an awful man he is. Just how much of a bad bloke he is. And in that moment where he's just like, I don't give a shit if this guy has cancer or not, it really kind of came home to me. It like sunk back in. I'm like, oh man, Gene is unforgivable. And maybe at the point of seeing the Gene scenes at the start of each season, I'm like, he's going to have a happy ending. Now we're getting full Gene episodes. I'm like, I don't know. He's kind of relapsed back into Saul, especially after the Kimmy call, which we didn't hear happen. What happened? Ooh. I cannot wait to see the other side of that conversation where Kim is on the phone and we actually hear what happened. Was she even on the phone? Who did he even talk to? We don't know anything. It's so, I'm so excited. I don't think I'm more excited for anything except for that phone call. It's just, what a good scene. But yeah, the fate of Gene, Saul, Goodman, Slippin' Jimmy, whatever you want to call him at this point, the fate of him feels so much more upended than I thought it might feel at this point. I felt like maybe I would have had a better idea of where we're going to go at this point. Although I guess originally, before this part 2 started, I don't think I thought we were going to get any Gene up until the last 2 episodes. So the fact we've had so much at this point is kind of crazy, kind of amazing. I'm really excited to see where it goes. I cannot wait to see Kim in black and white. I kind of can't believe in that phone call we didn't get like a bit of her mouth talking or, her hand holding the phone. Almost kind of like the way you shoot like a horror monster or something, where you shoot little bits of her and then it would cut to like a big wide and like she's pregnant with 3 kids by that phone, or just something crazy. She's wearing like a black wig and a mustache, and she's doing some classic Slippin' Kimmy crimes or whatever. I don't know why she'd be wearing a mustache, but you know what I'm saying. A mustache styled kind of get up without the mustache of, she's doing a look where it's not Slippin' Kimmy. It's not Kim Wexler, it's Slippin' Kimmy. It's Gazelle, it's Giselle, it's whatever the hell her name was. I'm getting too excited. I've forgotten what kind of animal she based her name off. Also, Jesse is really old now. Like, I don't want to throw shade. We all age. We all grow older. I mean, I look myself in the mirror every day and I go, well, I'm not gonna look in that mirror for another week because, geez, it's grim. Age gets us all, and it hurts. It hurts. But it is just kind of a bit annoying that there wasn't more juicy, meaty material in the scene, because I feel like I never notice. You know, like in El Camino, Jesse Plemons he looks entirely different. He's aged 20 years or whatever, he's put on weight, all the things, but I couldn't care less because there's so much good character work there. There's so much more to the characters, and I feel like they've fleshed out everything. It recontextualizes so much of when we rewatch Breaking Bad in that little period. Whereas this scene, it just kind of feels like it's there for fan service, and it's just like, look, your two favorite characters, look at them. Yeah, good enough. And I'm like, not really. I don't know. A couple of quips in a bus, like, sure. A van, whatever you call it. I don't care. But it's just kind of like, I don't know. I feel like if it was a really good scene, I wouldn't think about it at the end. So one of the most anticipating moments of this whole season was kind of brought about by that first scene, well, that random scene, I should say, in like a flash forward in episode, I can't remember what episode, but I think it was in season 4. And he's like, at this time, at this thing, do the phone call and blah. And theories, speculation, all the things, you know, what's the phone call? And I was always just like, it's Kim. It's Kim. I don't know what happens, but she's gone during Breaking Bad, or maybe she's there, but something happens. It's Kim. It's got to be like a reconciliation with Kim. And we kind of almost get that moment, and it builds up, but then it's like, it's not Kim. So she gets on the phone, and she's like, where's the money? Money first! And she does the whole thing, money's all good, she's all good. And then a scene that I just imagine playing out a certain way, where he's just like, Kim. And she's like, Jimmy. And he's like, I need to do one last Slippin' Jimmy scam. And she's like, I'm in, baby. Psh! And it was like, cut to black. Last episode, they do a Slippin' Jimmy / Slippin' Kimmy scam, and the show ends, you know? And on they end or die, maybe they Bonnie and Clyde it on the edge of a cliff getting shot down, or who knows what happens. But no, the phone call is just him being like, so what's going on in Albuquerque, man? Is it still hot? And she's like, yes, what do you mean? Is it still hot? You're like the #1 most wanted guy in the world. Like, what are you talking about? Like, Jesse's gone, Walt's dead, it's you. Like, what do you mean? I still got followed, and it was just such a bizarre moment. It wasn't like underwhelming, but it was like understated in this really kind of sad and tragic way. And he's like, yeah, I know they've got like that offshore account, and they've got that offshore account, but did you know about this offshore account? And she's like, of course I know about that offshore account. What do you think I don't know about that offshore account? You put my name on that offshore account. Just glorious stuff. She is so funny and awesome. You get a little cold open with her being the landlady. It's just glorious stuff. Like, it's that kind of last hurrah kind of moments where I'm just like, it's just so good to see them have a full scene. There's something about this show that really just like spends time with a moment. Like, they don't just have her in the car being all like, oh, it's all black and white and I'm paranoid, like Saul's paranoid or Jean's paranoid or whatever. You get a full like 3-5 minute scene of her just being the landlady, and you see like a slice of life of her life. I appreciate it. I really, really love it. It's really fun stuff. But that phone call was just amazing. It was just so not what I expected. And I love how he's like, well, goodbye. Oh, she hung up. And she just doesn't give a shit about him anymore. Cold, brutal, just really hurt the soul. It was like, they've been through so much together. But it all collapsed in on itself, and her life kind of sucks now. She still feels like she's getting followed, even if maybe she's not. Like, it's that kind of paranoia. Like, he then calls, somehow he knows where Kim is, somewhere in Florida, I think. Somewhere, it sounded hot. I can't remember. I think it was Florida. But he calls up, and we don't get that scene. That scene could be one of the most brilliant moments of filmmaking. Like, such a great decision. Like, when he gets the phone call, I'm like, we're going to get a close-up of her mouth. We're going to get this. We're going to get that. What are we going to get? Nothing. Big wide shots, trucks going up past, the new big bads of Better Call Saul, trucks, big semi-trailers just making obnoxious amounts of noise, and we can't hear anything, and then we slowly start seeing the cause getting like agitated, he's getting agitated, it's building up, and then he smashes the phone, he smashes the window. Just glorious. Like, I cannot wait to see the call from her perspective, which I am just 100% positive we're going to get. It's set it up for that way, and I hope it waits for the finale. I hope it is like the cold open of the finale. Yeah, I don't know. That was easily my favorite scene. I could not believe the balls of the writers to make that decision. It was so clever, so just... I have nothing clever to say about it, except it was goddamn awesome. It was bloody awesome. I loved it! Thanks for watching, guys. Like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and comment below. I would love to know what everyone thought of this episode, particularly Walter and Jesse's appearance. I am super curious. Big thumbs up or big thumbs down, or just, a mixed thing? Are you a bit more nuanced than me and my big hyperbolic statements of madness?